Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. Many of you were here yesterday. It was a great day. Thanks very much for all your contributions. And also, I hope you enjoyed, in particular, the dinner quiz, thanks to our Swedish colleagues who prepared it. I missed the winner, though, but you can inform me later. Thank you very much for all the speakers who joined us today. Next one. Okay, I won't bore you with many slides, just to underline that we are indeed a great project, as you all know, but for our guests. The project started in November 2020. It's running about 53 months already and will finish end of May this year. And I'm each time amazed when I see the number of deliverables, although we reduced this number significantly with the help of our project officer. Still 90 deliverables and altogether 135 with all the versions delivered. 41 partners from 19 countries. Many of you are aware that during our project review meeting, the reviewers were very happy to mention that we do have all the key players required for this immense undertaking, from standards development organizations, national competent authorities for medicinal products, e-health competence centers, industry partners, research, medicinal database providers, etc. This is only to make all of us again aware of the fact that we are really committed to interoperability in digital health, in healthcare in Europe from the very beginning. And even before the beginning, because the predecessor of this project was Open Medicine, which was one of 4 coordination and support actions, all related to interoperability issues. And I have posted here a screenshot of the press release from 2 days ago, from Wednesday, when the European Parliament adopted finally the European Health Data Space final draft, the final draft from 14th of March, following plenty of trilogue discussions and also 27, I think, altogether technical meetings for the last 3 months. So this is great news, and I wanted to underline that we have been following this very closely and contributing to the initiatives. My Health at EU, you can see here in blue color, thanks to Marcello, who ensured me in blue color. Everything is in routine operation, and it was achieved during the duration of UNICOM, and all the rest is in preparation, but coming very soon. And this is not the end of the story. If you can show the next one. We still have 1 month to go, so we will be using this month not only for the final deliverables, but also to hand over to industry. And thanks a lot here to Sophia from IHG, who delivered this slide. I wanted to announce on her and our behalf yet another event on May 14, together with COSIA HL7 Europe. There will be a handover in Brussels. And Luc will tell you about even more events. So, welcome. Okay, I would like to pass on to Luke. Good, but that's from me. Luke, please take on.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Just before we get into the achievements and also the challenges that we faced, we made a very short video to just try to summarize what are the key messages we want to bring aboard.
UNICOM wants to uniquely identify medicinal products wherever they are used. This project looks at interoperability for medicinal products data in a truly innovative way, where silos have been broken down. Structured data produced at the source by pharmaceutical companies will flow throughout the entire value chain down to the patient.
Patients and citizens who would really like access to their trusted health information.
Medicinal products data are connected to a very large and increasing number of use cases at national but also European level. Our first objective is to improve patient safety, but we believe tremendous efficacy and efficiency gains across the whole value chain can also be obtained. The Identification of Medicinal Products (IDMP) suite of standards was initially created to support pharmacovigilance. It is now the key reference for every initiative aiming at supporting interoperability in all the domains connected to medicinal products.
The IDMP standards have been developed over the years to focus on pharmacovigilance initially, but during the UNICOM project we've made sure that it's also connected with clinical care and with the supply chain.
UNICOM has put the implementation of the IDMP standards to the test, not in a laboratory, but in vivo. In 11 European countries, the public authorities in charge of authorizing medicinal products have accepted to adapt their IT infrastructure and make it IDMP compliant. They also help to solve the most critical unsolved issue, the identification of substances. They supported the European Medicines Agency in the development of the new IDMP-compliant electronic application forms. This was the fuel needed to make the change concrete. They got to know the fast healthcare interoperability resources, FHIR standard, thus creating a bridge with the standards-making community.
Together with the European Medicines Agency, we are developing the new generation of application forms for medicinal product data. This will provide IDMP-compliant data right from the start.
They have understood that they are also key interoperability contributors and that they need to develop a national data flow strategy.
Creating direct interactions between the national competent authority and the e-health competence center.
UNICOM also performed an in-depth analysis of the data now used by several UNICOM and non-UNICOM countries. This analysis will help all to undertake the IDMP conversion of legacy data.
This analysis will help all European national competent authorities to deal with the IDMP conversion of their legacy data and to develop the necessary tools to support this huge task.
Countries involved in UNICOM have been sharing extensively their individual progress and questions with all European countries. The UNICOM community of expertise has gathered together close to 1,500 people from all continents and all domains. All the questions asked and solutions proposed were debated and shared on the flow. UNICOM also created bridges with the IDMP ontology developed by the pharmaceutical industry. European Union e-prescription specifications have been updated with UNICOM input. IDMP is a key foundation for the European health data space in the making. The IDMP-based patient-facing app also paves the way for very innovative interactions between patients and health professionals, with or without the support of the EHDSI e-health infrastructure. UNICOM wants an overall solution for Europe, but a worldwide alignment is also needed. The global IDMP working group, which gathered together EMA, US FDA, and WHO Uppsala Monitoring Center, is now piloting global implementation.
There's now a way to align the global IDMP working group.
The journey has started. The point on the horizon is clear. All European national competent authorities now need to be involved and to take action. What UNICOM learned and did will make it easier for them to start their journey.
It is now time for all European national competent authorities to start implementing IDMP.
Future EHDS implemented acts will need to make direct reference to the IDMP standards.
But we need that the implementation of the IDMP for the whole value chain is fully recognized and adopted in all the major European initiatives like the European Health Data Space.
The UNICOM pilot database and implementation guidelines are critical resources for strategic European projects. New competencies need to be supported through permanent capacity building mechanisms. The resources and database to support implementation need to be further enriched. UNICOM advocates open access to essential resources, such as the substances database.
The UNICOM project is advocating for a wide and open accessibility to essential resources in a collaborative environment.
Major actors, such as EMA and those from industry, need to be engaged in an ambitious and shared work plan, where all the stakeholders are mutually held accountable. Most advanced countries will soon be able to demonstrate value creation along the entire pipeline. The pipeline will connect directly several domains, including regulatory, clinical, research, and public health. We now know it can be done, and with an acceptable level of investment, even for small countries, remaining implementation risks can now be mitigated. Reference implementations exist.
In smaller countries, it is possible to achieve successful and forward-looking IDMP implementation with a reasonable investment, and the remaining implementation risks will now be mitigated.
The different available European Union funding schemes can also support member states which are only starting their journey. A possible new European project would give a strong and clear signal to everyone engaged in the medicinal product value chain.
Share knowledge and best practice between a fully IDMP compliant country and not.
Bring value to each and everybody of us. And this is a game that we need to play together.
Bridge the gap between NCAs and healthcare organizations.
The biggest challenge for us is funding.
UNICOM has started to change the main rules of the game. The momentum cannot be lost. Governments, public agencies, industry, standard development organizations, healthcare providers, let's all be engaged.
Our ambition now must be to engage patients and health professionals.
Collaboration and never ever give up.
Addressing the need to enhance the cooperation across each NCA member state.
Get engaged and help us to make a quick progress. Read our key recommendations on unicom-project.eu and join us in Brussels for the UNICOM final event on April 26.
Thank you very much. Following this introduction, I would like to pass on to our project officer and thank you once more for all your efforts during the long journey we did together.
Thank you, Veli. Thank you for the invitation as well to this event. So I'm Christos Maramis. I'm the project advisor of UNICOM on behalf of HADEA, the Health and Digital Executive Agency of the European Commission. And I would like to take my turn in welcoming you to the open final conference of the project. So at the Health Research Unit of HADEA, we overview the implementation of hundreds of projects in the health domain. Of course, UNICOM is considered by us one of our flagship H2020 project with a really special place in our portfolio. But I want to share with you that when you work as a project advisor and you overview the nitty-gritty of a project implementation, is the project implemented according to the plan, are the costs eligible, you sometimes lose focus to some extent from the real important things, the high-level achievements and outcomes and impact that a project like UNICOM can bring. And this is why events like this one are important, because through these events you can celebrate the great achievements of UNICOM and also disseminate them to an audience that is external to the consortium. And indeed, UNICOM has achieved a lot throughout these 4.5 years, and we need to congratulate you as HADEA for this. I believe that the European landscape in the univocal identification of medicinal products today is not the same as it was when the project started. It looks much brighter, and I don't say it's all owing to UNICOM, of course, but you have played, of course, a very important role, and you have made a substantial contribution to this outcome. I don't want to list all your outcomes. We saw the video. There are a lot. Your contribution to My Health at EU in adopting the standard, in a routine operation, your collaboration with EMA on the EU substance registration system, your transatlantic exchanges, your work on fire, just to name a few. For all these achievements, again, we need to congratulate you. You have summarized them in your really nice white paper, along with the targeted call for action. And I encourage everybody to, if you get a chance, to give a read to the white paper, because it's really informative and clear as to what has happened within UNICOM and what has to happen next. Indeed, according to your latest review report, you have delivered exceptional results to HADEA, so as HADEA, we're really happy with how UNICOM has been implemented. But this event today is not only about disseminating the results, is also about the future of your efforts. And it's about discussing what are your next steps. And you have planned a series of really interesting panels with the right people, including some of my old colleagues at the policy units of the Commission, to do just that, to discuss and have a plan on your future steps. Personally, I'm looking forward to seeing the ISO IDMP making its way into the upcoming European health data space via the European EHR exchange format and the associated implementing act. Of course, this remains to be seen. That's it from my side. I wish us all a really fruitful and enjoyable final conference.
Thank you very much, Christoph. Yeah, so just a few things before we start here. actually, with this project, there is something special about it, because it's an innovation, but it's also an implementation project, and it brings together private and public partners all together. So it's not only specific because it's a strategic project, it's also a new way to bring people together in a project, and it's quite innovative, I would say. It's also important to understand that it's not just one another standard. This is a standard which can make an incredible difference in terms of added value. Because we here have the opportunity not to develop business case one after the other one, develop specification, and hope that everybody will adapt their system. No, we have the systems adapted at the source, and all the data flows all the way down. So you have interoperability at the source, and it flows down to the sea. And that's something people need to understand. Some member states in Europe have implemented this concept of authentic data source, which is used, and they have a tremendous benefit out of it. And they gain so much resources and money out of that. Though that's also a question of, today, efficacy and efficiency. Efficacy because we need quicker decision making, we need quicker flow of information. Efficiency because scarce resources need to be better used, and we need to avoid duplication of data. We need quality, secure data all the way. Finally, this project is about a data model, but it's also about creating a new governance. It means that everybody can't just take its own business into account and ignoring what happens after. That means that we are all mutually accountable. That means that pharmaceutical industry produce data, EMA produce data, which they must know will be used for clinical purpose also, not only for pharmacovigilance or for market authorization. So that's really the key. If everybody is aware, things can change. So today, Christophe, you're right, we're not only here to celebrate achievements, we are here because we need to make clear that we need more decisions in order to put the glue to all has been done and make sure it will go. So very quickly, and I will just take, we have just summarized a few points for the first thing is there's the prioritization that we want to emphasize, prioritization by member states for sure, and the guarantee that they will collect either by creating a central database which will flow, or connecting also with the MPDs in the country to make sure that those secure medicinal product data can be used in all the systems. The second very important aspect is that member states need to map the spore as quick as possible, and of course the EMA can help them also to do that. And also to begin to extend to other use cases the ones that we have. Clearly the question of the tools that we have been developing needs to be further reinforced. We need more tools, but there are already a number of them, and we have already an exemplative database which can now be used extensively for piloting. We should need more medicines with more complex products and so on and so forth, but we have the environment now to create the knowledge sharing and go further on the way. We also need to develop more to promote the PHP-ID implementation, which ultimately is the best way, we believe, to guarantee a full interoperability, and a simple one in Europe, but also across the globe, because I think we need also to consider this alignment. Finally, we need, and has been mentioned by Christophe also, we strongly believe that what we have done needs to be connected with the implementing acts of the European Health Data Space and the several formats. There are 4 of them, which are really e-prescription, e-dispensation, discharge, the discharge report from the hospital, and the patient summary, all contains medications. And I've been working for quite a time in certifying systems in my country, and I can tell you, unfortunately, for a very long period, the only data which is reliable in the patient summary is medication. That's the first data that doctors usually enter. And the rest, of course, is nice, but it's not always there. Medication is always there. So it's really the most important one, in my opinion, to start with. And finally, the last very important aspect is that we need to find a way to engage all the countries which have not yet started their journey. We have tried to do that very much in the last part of the project by inviting them to come and to share experience. But clearly, what they tell us is, say, well, we're short of everything, basically. We're short of money, we're short of resources. So there are many ideas we could twin, but we need a plan. We need a plan for them. It will not come by magic. Thank you. Now, we can start definitely our conference. We will have 4 panels, actually 3, but the last one being divided in 2, where we start with looking at the European reality, which will be moderated by Petra Wilson, and we will have a full range of panelists. And just after that, we will look at the world dimension. As mentioned in the video, we had more than 80 countries who participated in the community of expertise. There is a huge interest in what we have been doing in a number of countries. We had a lot of Indians, Australian, Chinese, Brazilian people who were attending our webinars. So Christian will animate this. And then finally, Deepak, where is Deepak? In the room? Yes, Deepak will show you that indeed IDMP was created to support pharmacovigilance, but we have demonstrated that it's an incredible asset for all the clinical value chain. And we have already a lot of business cases, and there will be so much more once the system will be integrated. Thank you.
I would like to invite the panelists to come and join me on stage. So I would like to invite Sila Rinner from the European Commission, Klara Yerakova from EHMSEG, Isabel Shikaro from EMA, Melanie Vizantsou from Cyprus, and I've probably made your name awful, Eamon Cohen from Ireland, and Auden Haga from Norway. Thank you very much. So what we're going to do in this session is build a little bit on some of the introductions that you've already seen. And what we're going to do is take things up one level higher, in a way, to have a look at what we've done in this project and how IDMP set of standards can help us advance the European objectives of creating a fully integrated medicinal products ecosystem which really produces value for the patient along the full value chain. Now, how a country delivers its healthcare system is, of course, a matter for that country. That is within the Treaty of the European Union, and the European Union cannot tell a member state how to deliver its healthcare system. However, the Treaty of the European Union makes very clear that it is important for us to support the personal autonomy of patients. Personal autonomy is particularly found in issues like data protection. That it's also very important to advance the safe and secure supply of medicines, and we see that particularly in the work headed by the European Medicines Agency. And then finally, as we see in the pharmaceutical legislation and in a wide range of other legislation, to promote the equitable access to medication for all citizens, whilst at the same time building resilient healthcare systems. And it's those 3 categories of issues that we're going to look at in this panel today. And we're going to look at it in terms of what can the IDMP suite of standards do to help meet those 3 targets. Now, the panelists know themselves much better than I do. You will do a much better job of introducing yourselves. So may I ask you to introduce yourselves, and I will begin with Isabel. We just go along the line and tell us just a few words about who you are, but also how your agency and organization will contribute to the IDMP standards. And let me bring you a microphone.
Hello? Yes, today it works. So good morning, everyone. I'm Isabel Shisharu. I work for EMA. And I am responsible for the implementation of IDMP for the EU network. And you may have heard of the acronym SPORE, so the Substance, Products, Organizations, and Referentials. So that's my team, who I'm very happy to lead. Is it now the time to say how I value UNICOM? So it's been an uphill battle implementing IDMP for the network. And we've had our set of challenges, but we've always looked at this project, UNICOM, as a valuable, not just platform, but a means to provide NCAs with the tools to do what else is needed in their local systems to implement IDMP. So we do see this project a bit of the yin and yang to what we're doing. We do the central systems. This project provides the platform and the means for NCAs to do what they need to do. And there's actually a nice setting around it involving patients, which we all agree it's our mission as regulators. And it was very refreshing to see the outreach of this particular project to the medicinal product dictionary providers, to the prescription, to all the other use cases where we typically won't go as far. So my appreciation to what the project has achieved. I think we contribute to the two sides of the coin for the same goal, which is to provide better and faster access to medicines to patients.
So my name is Saila Rinne. I am the acting head of the e-health wellbeing and aging unit in DG Connect. So we are the technology DG of the European Commission. And actually this project was conceived in my unit. I was thinking about the timelines. The work program in H2020 must have been the last year of the program, 2019, when the topic came out. So it means that the topic was basically drafted in 2018 and then started 2020. And looking at what has happened in the past 4.5 years, like how timely this project has been, and sort of if it had started like 2 years later, then like considering what has happened with the EHDS, and now we are going to have the implementing acts and the rest. So it is so timely, but it was not. We couldn't know it back then. So there's a bit of a coincidence and luck as well involved. And looking at from the perspective of DG Connect, we have the Digital Decade program, which is looking at really setting goals and targets in order for the whole Europe to become more digital, including skills and technical capacities. And we have a specific target for e-health, which is about patients having access to their medical records, online medical records, like 100% coverage by 2030. And we are now at 72%. And we are moving towards the 100 by 2030. The last mile will be the most difficult one. We heard, for example, that there are big discrepancies between countries, regions, and there's really a need to help the ones who are not there yet in terms of digital transformation, and including the interoperability of electronic health records. And ultimately this project as well is one of the enablers of moving towards the target. What is impressive is this like set of beneficiaries. It's so varied and like so many different types of stakeholders, and this paves the way for the next steps, like doing this together and really moving forward, also from the perspective of the patient. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Klára Ráková. I come from the Czech Republic, and I'm here today as the chair of the EMSEG, the eHealth Member State Expert Group, which I'm co-chairing with Eamon. And I'm also responsible for the operation of the national contact point in the Czech Republic. I'm speaking to you today from the operational level, which is what the EMSEG is. It's a body below the strategic eHealth network, and the EMSEG is the platform for cooperation of national contact points and commission, where we implement and operationalize and run the cross-border services. Right now we have the cross-border patient summary and cross-border e-prescription and e-dispensation. And IDMP, as it is, and as I understand, the UNICOM project has proved that IDMP works, will be very, very important towards the future, because e-prescription service is the service which will become most frequently used in the first place, before all the other priority categories. And I'm speaking this from the experience of a country which has operationalized e-prescription service as well as patient summary service, and e-prescription is many, many times more used. It's a service which is more understandable for the citizens. People pick up their medicine much more frequently than go to doctor. And in countries which are using national e-prescription, it's normal for them to understand. If you tell them you can use your e-prescription abroad, it's very easy for them to understand. So in Czech Republic with e-prescription service now has hundreds of transactions per month and about plus or minus 100 dispensations per month, and that's only with 2 countries which were operationalized. So and from experience, I can say that people are very interested in the medicine that they're picking up, how it works, and if they even had that added benefit of, for example, IDMP application, they would welcome it very much. We get questions on how will this work? Will I get the same medicine? Will it work the same way? Can I go with my prescription to the pharmacy in Poland, and what will I get there? And so on. So people are very much interested in this, and it will be a great benefit for them. And we need to push this forward because as I said, as EHDS comes in, e-prescription will be the service which will be operationalized very fast. It already is, but it will be very fast. And one more thing I wanted to say is on the EMSEG operational level, we usually, and we meaning the eHealth community, is not so great. It's our strength and weakness at the same time. Many of us are functional on in many platforms, but we understand what needs to be done, what rules should be implemented for things to work. We need IDMP. We have 2 change proposals which came from you. But then, as was mentioned many times here, we need to explain it to our NCAs and explain it to the politicians. That's on the strategic level. And that's where I think on national level, many times we have a problem because voices from the operational level aren't always heard. And then we start doing this, I call it internal marketing, when we start explaining. But it would be good also if this voice came from another side and from above. So I would urge, as you can, all of you here, to go to your eHealth network members or representatives or other representatives, political representatives, because if they hear it from another side, not only from us from the operational level, it might make a difference, and they might hear it more, so we might reach our efforts better. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Melanie Fisenzu, and I am a pharmacist. I represent the National E-Health Authority of Cyprus, NIHA for short. I will talk a bit more about our authority because we are still not members of the UNICOM, but we would like to be. Cyprus is collaborating with other member states, actively participates in joint actions, and working towards implementing acts for promoting health and provide services to citizens and healthcare providers that will increase the autonomy and participation. Cyprus was among the first EU countries to deploy national e-health legislations. Our national e-health law led to the formation of NIHA. According to this, the personal autonomy of patient is supported. Citizens are receiving safe and secure supply of medicines, and they have equitable access to medication whilst driving efficiency and sustainability in healthcare systems. The challenge, however, is to apply the legislation across the country and eventually comply with the European Health Regulation, data space regulation, which now is a reality after its adoption 2 days ago and by the European Parliament. As an e-health authority, we're currently participating in 9 European health-related projects and coordinating the joint action extended EHR for primary use of health data. NIHA is by law the national contact point for e-health, ensuring the continuation of cross-border healthcare and patient safety by providing cross-border electronic services. We are currently working on the deployment of generic cross-border e-health services in Cyprus. We're planning to go live with a national contact point and cross-border services by the end of June. We try to incorporate as well all the necessary fields for e-dispensation and e-prescription based on IDMP standards and sport terminology. Furthermore, NIHA will be the health data access body for Cyprus, as dictated by the EHDS regulation for secondary use of health data. We appreciate that we were given the floor today in this very important event to present ourselves, and we are confirming our active presence and participation with the other EU members to facilitate interoperability. We are committed to continue working together towards a European Health Union dream to become a reality. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. Eamon Coyne is my name, from Ireland. I've worked in the National Health Service for 20 years. In IT projects, and more recently I joined my colleague Katrina, who I can see approaching the front of the room there, in the Ministry of Health. So I've seen a lot of change over the years. I've had the privilege to serve with Clara as the AMSEC chair. So the beneficiaries of this project, as we'll talk a little bit more about later on, is the outputs of the UNICOM project and how it supports the digitization for European citizens of safe, secure clinical exchange of data. So we're really excited and we're very thankful for the work that has gone on in this project, and it's a pleasure to be here today. From the Irish perspective, we were fortunate in the sense that we had multi-stakeholder engagement in the project. We had HPRA, the Health Product Regulatory Authority. We had the Irish Pharmacy Union involved in the project. We had the Department of Health, myself, Katrina, and other colleagues involved. And we also had the operational element of our health service, the health service executive involved in the project as well. So from my perspective, you know, Clara's is a voice of experience, and there's plenty in this room that have a lot of experience in terms of My Health at EU. From the Irish perspective, we have a big digital health agenda ahead of us, like all European countries, particularly in light of the plenary vote with EHDS. So the work of UNICOM is going to be critical to the success of that safe, secure, because in the past, as we've seen with standards, sometimes when you talk about standards, people switch off a little bit. Now we have the mandate and the legal framework for these services across all the member states. So the work of UNICOM, the adoption of ISO IDMP, and the stakeholder engagement is going to be critical to that. Ireland has learned a lot from the exchanges of the test events in My Health at EU. So we've been doing that since 2019, the bi-directional exchange of e-prescriptions and patient summaries and the new services as they come down the track. So it's a pleasure to be here today. I'm looking forward to the rest of the session, and I'll pass on to our next panelist.
My name is Audun Hågå. I'm the Director General in NOMA. And as you can see, we have a very broad responsibility. As being head of an NCA, I'm totally convinced that we need to digitalize. We need to keep on digitalizing. We need that to stay relevant, both for society, but most of all for the patients. It will help us keep on improving our effectiveness, the quality for patients, the safety, and also help us cooperate, both nationally but also internationally, so that we can work share and that we can have a better cooperation with the industry. And the key to unlock all these possibilities is a common standard, a common identification for pharmaceuticals. So the name of the important key to digitalize is IDMP.
Unfortunately, Jerome, who was going to join us, you just saw his name come up briefly, is not going to be able to join us today because he has sustained an injury, which means he can't be here, and he sent his apologies. I would like to now take us down into the three broad areas that we looked at. And I'd like to begin by looking particularly at the issues around patient autonomy. What can we do? How can IDMP help us ensure that patients are able to exercise their autonomy? Now, Sala, I'd like to begin with you, because in the European Commission, of course, can we pass a microphone? Because the European Commission, of course, a long time ago adopted the Cross-Border Care Directive, which embedded the right to e-prescriptions and the right for patients to exercise to use those prescriptions wherever they are. But I wonder if you can tell us a little bit more about how IDMP can take that forward in a safe way, and also what the European Health Data Space promises. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Indeed, it was already mentioned that member states have competence over their own health systems, and this cross-border directive back then was really gave the mandate for the Commission to work on cross-border cases when the patient goes to another country. Of course, there are so many reasons why you go to another country. You travel, you go to study, you go for your pension, to retire. So, and then your data, your health data is not moving with you. And we saw this very acutely during pandemic. Like papers were carried with patients to hospitals and across borders. So also I think and the pandemic was also sort of timely in the sense that it also pushed for moving fast with EHDS. So really the health care systems and these issues with cross-border access and interoperability of health data, they really became very prominent during the pandemic. So there was momentum also in that sense, and when the EHDS was proposed. Also the fact that these infrastructures for primary and secondary use were started already. There were pilots. We didn't know what's going to happen with the HDS. It was under discussion for a long time, but there was this very proactive approach from the Commission to already start working, because we believed in it, that it will come, because you never know. And at the same time, so that we are ready when the decision comes, like this week, the political agreement was reached formally, and we are now at the right point of moving forward and really implementing things. The Commission has been supporting both joint actions between member states, but also from H2020, Horizon Europe in particular, there are actions that are supporting the interoperability, and there are very valuable results from this project that can contribute to those other actions that are ongoing, coming up. And I saw that this discussion will take place this afternoon, in more detail, what could go where and how these results could be sort of maximized in further funding efforts. Finally, I would like to also bring the issue of data portability, because from the patient's perspective, we are really talking about carrying your medication data with you to different pharmacies, also across borders. So this is something very concrete and useful for patients. And there has to be the interoperability and all the agreements and standards in place for this to happen. And Clara will talk more about the practicalities of that side.
Thank you very much. You set up the question very nicely for Clara. What about the practicalities at member state level?
I was just, when we're speaking about patient empowerment, please be assured that we will be under a lot of pressure now. We, on the operational level, you, everybody who's involved in this field, because the patients or citizens are watching this, and they will be expecting the services to come and for them to work. Now, I get a couple of phone calls each week when people are calling me and telling me, okay, can I pick up my prescription in Germany, in Austria? Why not? I picked it up last week in Poland. Why is it not working in Austria? You know, I heard it on the radio, so what's the problem? And of course, you can't explain to them, it's complicated, we need to test, we need to blah, blah, blah. It's, you know, they don't care, you know, so we will be under a lot of pressure to deliver these services. We will be under a lot of pressure for them to be trustworthy, to be safe, and to be trusted by the citizens. But they will need to be delivered pretty fast.
Thank you very much. So we've looked a little bit at patient autonomy, and I just want to quickly open the floor. Does anybody have a question that they would like to ask, particularly our last two speakers, about what IDMP can do to enhance that right of patient autonomy, whether it's data portability or actually getting a prescription filled? Is there a question from the floor? If there is not, we will move on to look at the next topic. But
I can actually add to that. Is that okay?
Would you like to go down to the floor to ask the question?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
So, I suppose I'll ask myself the question. So where the regulators are coming from is that, at least us in EMA, we recognize that patients are more and more savvy with their looks and access to information. They ask the right questions, they ask pertinent questions, they look everywhere to find information, especially on rare conditions, on rare medicine. So that's an area that's been close to our heart, and that we've used IDMP concretely to kind of build the graph. So IDMP is a standard to identify medicines. In isolation, it doesn't do the magic, but it supports a lot of use cases. And one concretely that we are working is we are having this collected, structured information on medicines by building our PMS and using key attributes of IDMP, and one of them is the data carrier. I don't know if you're familiar, the simple barcode that appears on the box. We are trying to collect that. And the idea is to connect that barcode with also structured information that a project from UNICOM is supporting as well via the electronic product information. And what that would do is, for software developers, you can have access to all of that connected data that's been enabled by IDMP. And patients can do structured searches. They can look for a substance, they could look for an indication, they could look for a dosage form. I don't like tablets, I like something liquid, something like that. Then from that, they can navigate to the structured product information. Or they could even look, let me see what I have on my box. What's the trusted source of information that supports that? And I think a practical example of opportunity IDMP brings is really connecting those dots. And an example of what we're doing with the EMA projects and with UNICOM and with the NCAs is making sure that we connect the dots between the regulators, the different member states, in a trusted source of information that patients can go to one place instead of looking at sometimes suspicious information they find online, because they do look for that information. So I think it's really a way that IDMP is building that gap from the connecting information perspective.
Thank you, Isabel, for jumping in on that. Before we move, did you want to answer? No. Before we move on to the next question, Isabel, I just want to actually take you one step further, because you talked a lot about, in that last statement, about the access to safe information for citizens. But I wonder if you just want to say a couple of words about the EU substance reference system as well, and how you think that can further the objectives that you outlined.
So as you know, the credit is actually to UNICOM by implementing USRS and creating a group of experts across Europe that help us cleanse our substance data to begin with, making sure that there are no duplicates, that the substances are clearly identified. And why is this important? It's important because we need that information to assess the products to begin with. Can we place them in the market? Are we sure there's no toxic component? How is this going to be used? But even the trivial things, the fact that if we have duplicates in a database, and I don't know if you're familiar, then we don't realize that it's the same thing, and we might be diluting safety signals. So only when we are sure that everything is linked to the right substance, that all the products using that substance are connected together, can we make sure that we're not diluting these adverse reaction signals. So I think that's primarily how we hope to use that work. In addition, what these experts have done is they've compiled more information than we used to have. So in SMS, we typically just have names. And it's a starting point, but it's not sufficient to know exactly what the substance is about. And it also facilitates further signal detection, because you can look, is there a similarity across these different substances just because they have a similar chemical structure, or they have a similar manufacturing method, or even a manufacturer? They can dig deeper to understand what's the issue, what's the commonality or difference across the substances used in products. So I think merit to that, that's how that work is meant to be used for safety.
Thank you so much. Going on further into the safety issue, Melanie, I'd like to turn to you, and I'd like you to put on your hat of being a pharmacist. You've given us a bit of introduction to what the European health data space means and what it means for you from a member state perspective. But I wonder whether, looking at the issues of safety as a pharmacist, you can say a little bit about how the use of the IDMP standard can help with two issues that you may often encounter as a pharmacist. One of those being having to make a substitution when that's allowed in the member state, but also wanting to, when a patient comes to you wanting to report an adverse reaction of some sort. How is IDMP going to be useful to you?
Okay. So IDMP standards provide complete and accurate data, as we know, and they help to fight drug falsification by choosing and substituting the right medicinal product for the patient based on scientific evidence. Secondly, the standards will help avoid negative drug-drug interactions. That means that it's recognized by the pharmacist, or will be by the system at one point, that two drugs have an antagonistic effect and should not be taken together. Thirdly, can help perform drug allergy checking. This usually might happen when medicinal products are used for the first time and symptoms are presented after the medication was taken. Otherwise, drug allergy can be seen if the medicinal product was taken with a particular food. Moreover, IDMP can help perform drug condition checking, making sure that the patient is taking what is appropriate for his or her condition and there is no chance of aggravation. Lastly, IDMP support the reporting of adverse events and pharmacovigilance. Now, we try to go deeper on how IDMP will help pharmacists advance safe use of medicines. When substituting a medicinal product, the pharmacist will be able to offer substitution and counseling based on scientific and valid information. There are two types of substitutions. First, we have the generic, which is the only one at the moment that pharmacists can offer in most countries according to their national pharmaceutical law. Generic substitution is the substitution of a prescribed branded drug by a different form of the same active substance. The generic is usually unbranded and is often a parallel imported product, which is regarded as essentially similar by the EU Commission. Therapeutic is a substitution with related drugs, not the same as the active ingredient. These are chemically different drugs that are expected to have the same clinical effect. Many times, patients switch to a different drug with no problems. However, for certain medications and conditions, therapeutic substitution could cause problems. Pharmacists are not allowed to do that at the moment in any country. A consideration might be to be able to do it in the future when there is a short supply on certain medications. Of course, this has to go hand in hand with a change in pharmaceutical legislation. Certain medications, though, are not allowed for substitution and should always be prescribed by brand. This could be due to their narrow therapeutic index, e.g. digoxin. Also, there are preparations that may vary widely in bioavailability, e.g. lithium, or just because they are modified release preparations. Substitution removes the need for the patient to return to the prescriber for a new prescription, hence saves effort and time for the patient and the pharmacist. Also saves time for the doctors to deal with real emergencies. So, how else IDMP help pharmacists to advance safe use of medicines? By reporting adverse drug reactions. There are different types of adverse drug reactions, but in community pharmacy we see only type A, augmented effects, and type B, bizarre effects. The most common ADRs are just dizziness and impaired eyesight and vision. How do pharmacists report ADRs to aid pharmacovigilance? 1 minute. Pharmacists are the first point of contact and the first to hear about an ADR from a patient. With IDMP standards, the pharmacist will be confident about the substances and excipients that were involved in the ADR and can easier trace back which substances were involved. After that, the pharmacist will report ADR to the distributor of the product, who will inform the appropriate health authority. The health authority will investigate the incident, and through the data gathered, the health authority will give feedback and take the appropriate actions. Those could be certain ways to prevent an ADR of recurring or recall of the product if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. That's given us a lot of insight, I think. And before we move on to look at, I think, perhaps the most difficult aspect around access and equity, again, I want to ask, is there any questions from the floor for our experts here, or where you want to share anything else from the project that you feel may not have been fully explored? And I can see Anna at the back.
Hi, thank you to the panel and congratulations to UNICOM for this final conference. On the note and I am on the moon, I'm professor at the University of Oslo, and I'm also coordinator of the Gravitate Health Innovation Medicine Initiative project. It's a public-private partnership. My question relates to, well, on the note on patient autonomy and pharmacovigilance. How do you foresee that patients themselves, when they experience something fussy, can take advantage of the IDMP resources and contribute to safe use of medicines and report on pharmacovigilance? Thank you.
So let me start. IDMP provides the opportunity. Are we there yet? We still have a few steps to go, but And I'll make a link to what Peter said yesterday. Our IDMP has a wealth of structured information on clinical particulars. Right now, that information exists in documents in the SMPC and EPI, the leaflets and so on. I think if we had it structured, for sure, instead of looking across documents to find, is this that I'm feeling, is this adverse reaction normal? Is it listed? Is it something that I should report? If they could have it in a structured way, it would for sure facilitate the search. First and foremost, for them to know, is this a normal thing? Is this something severe? Is this something I should support? But we're not there yet in terms of implementation. So IDMP provides that opportunity, for sure. At the moment, what we have is documents that have a starting point for them to even know if that is an adverse reaction and if it's to that drug. Then there's the wealth of business processes that we need to do. How do we make access of adverse reaction more easier for patients, not going to their doctors, knowing what's the route, and how to report it. I think there's an area that needs to be improved there as well.
I only have a very general view about this, but shortly, or not long time ago, I tried myself to put in an adverse reaction report. And that was not easy. My goodness, that was a lot to fill in. And how can IDMP help this? I have understood as much as that there is something called enrichment, that data are automatically filled in from systems when you sort of indicate enough sufficiently. You can have drop-down menus, you can have a lot of help in filling in so that it doesn't become so cumbersome and avoid people from actually turning in reactions.
We're limited to a few microphones. Yes, and I have one more question. Carl and Marcello, and then I think that will be all I can take.
My name is Karl Strothmann, and I used to be half-time project manager of this project. I think we should go to a totally different view on what you just discussed. Why do we need all these complex reporting documents anymore? Can't we go, and I think this would also be a recommendation to the Commission, to a totally different approach based on artificial intelligence. We should by now be able to ask the patient just to give his report or her report in period. And in the background, all the information we need to identify the drug which the patient has taken. If he just looks at the leaflet or at the box and gives the name, then IDMP should deliver in the background everything we need. And at the same time, it should be possible to report to the patient what is the issue, what he might do, and so on and so forth. And I think we need a totally different approach. We need also much more information for the patient. I mean, like with cross-border, at least in the old days in Germany, nobody was interested from the political side or from pharma company sides to have patients to go cross-border. And we have to break this political attitude. And we have to get a totally different approach to involving patients and giving competent information to them. And I'm sure the development of artificial intelligence, language models, for instance, would provide a totally different and much easier to use way for patients. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carl. Sally, please go ahead.
Yeah, you're totally right. We are living in a data-driven society, so we really need to tap all the different kinds of data and apply AI. There's also under the Innovative Health Initiative, for example, which is a partnership with industry. There's a lot of pre-competitive research going on, applying AI for many different things, related also to pharma and many other things. So this is definitely the future. And there is also a strategy from the Commission side on how to boost AI and SMEs and to provide supercomputing capacities for the vast amounts of data to be used for training trustworthy AI algorithms. So here we are really talking, we are going in particular when it comes to health, we are talking about high risk AI applications, so we need to do it right. It cannot be that we just put in the data, we don't care about people's privacy and all the rest. And also the trend towards multimodality, to have like really different, like you can have imaging data, you can have patient data, medication, like various different types, data types, also coming from wearables and the rest. So there is a lot to be done in this field, and to move also towards generative AI, like creating new knowledge. But of course, this cannot happen very quickly. It's the future, and there needs to be this solid legal framework in place, which is actually now EHDS is part of it, but we have a full frame of regulatory initiatives which have been adopted lately, and the next step is really to implement them and make sense of all this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for touching a little bit on the AI Act and the European Health Data Space, and how we will slowly embed AI solutions into taking this even further. Marcello, I believe you had a question. There's a microphone coming.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, coming on the other side. So friends, thank you. I think it is a UNICOM opportunity just to give you the flavor of what we are speaking about. Clara, Eamon are mentioning few prescription exchange. So since the beginning of my Health at You, sorry, this stupid phone, we exchanged among Europe 58,000 e-prescriptions. And of them, starting from the UNICOM, IDMP, we had 26,729 e-prescription. So not just few cases. And 15,575 e-dispensation. And patient summary is low. We have 736 over the total of 1,167. Exchanging e-prescription from cross-border, it means that the prescription from one country is coded, and when it comes to a pharmacy is translated. And this can be done only if coded data are provided. And the great opportunity here, you have generals, two nice ladies, Isabel and Sila, colonel representing the member state, captain. And in the reality, the two generals are speaking almost the same language, but slightly different. So the concept is there, but the code is different. So we, captain in the trench, we need a sort of uniform way of coding and a language that allows us a totally seamless transferring of the concept that are from IDMP, but internally in the EMA PMS database are coded in a way, outside coming to the EL side are coded in another way. So we, as captain, we need the same language in order to very effective and safe in applying the order that we will receive from the general, from the colonel, because we have to protect our patient safety. So I really do believe we are very, 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 very close to the fact. And Isabel, you gave me a great news this morning. IDMP identifier will be ready for use. Thank you. That's really great. We really hope to be able to use that. But again, only one point in which official transcoding of the concept that are in PMS, RMS database into our health world has to be transferred. And a big political strategic decision has to be taken. If we speak one language, the other language, they are very close, but there are some slight differences. I don't want to enter into detail, but this is a strategic decision that has to be taken at the general level, at the colonel level, and we, small captain, we can act accordingly. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Marcello, and also thank you for setting us up. Please do jump in briefly, please.
I try, yes. Exactly. We know what to do on the operational level. We're operational. The transactions are ongoing. Patients want, or citizens need and want this service. Once they use it once, they want to use it all the time and everywhere. So we know how to, and now we need that extra nudge and instruction from the general, from the top. But sometimes it's hard to call from the trenches, this is what we need. You know, they don't listen to us every time. It's expensive, you need people, money, capacities. It's complicated. I think someone said, if someone hears standards, you know, they're like, it's difficult. Yes, it's difficult, it's complicated, but patients don't want to hear that. They want the services to run smoothly, and we need that instruction coming from the top.
I think you're preparing the ground nicely for Eamon, because I think it'd be really good if we hear a little bit from you, Eamon Nordon, now, as we take it to the next level to think about how the IDMP standards, suite of standards, can help really drive that overarching issue about access and equity and efficiency. But also, if you can touch a little bit upon what you need to be doing in terms of, at member state level, working with the tools that the EMA and the European Commission has provided, tools also in the form of legislation, but what are we going to do to go to that next step to operationalize? Eamon.
Just in terms of what we need to do, I think it's important to reflect on what has been done as part of the project. So in the lovely white paper, we see that thanks to the efforts of the UNICOM project at the strategic level, if we're talking about generals, colonels and captains, at the strategic level, the eHealth network, thanks to the efforts of the UNICOM project, the patient summary and the e-prescription guidelines have been amended to reflect the recommendation of ISO IDMP and the SPORE data models at that level, okay, thanks to the efforts of the people in this room. If we go to the operational level, within the domain, as we said, as Clara had said, in the trenches, and Clara is one that receives calls from citizens utilising the service. Within My Health EDU, there has been 2 change proposals, and as it says in the white paper, a key consultation with stakeholders that have been adopted by member states to pave the way for the usage of ISO IDMP within the My Health EDU infrastructure. So in Luke's presentation there was a nice slide, I think, that originated from Clara, that shows, this is what I think some at the high strategic level, they forget from our colleague from the floor, we need to change the political mindset of, you know, it's a cross-border service, we need to deal with the domestic challenges. We're all EU citizens. EU Directive 2011/24/EU set the tone for continuity care for each of the citizens throughout Europe. So in terms of what needs to be done is that Ruth is at the back of the room there, and she wrote a nice paper on adoption of ISO IDMP and the need for the stakeholder engagement at the national level and bridging the gap between the clinical use case in the domain with the regulatory. So I'm so happy to hear that Marcello had that good news from Isabel this morning in terms of what is going to be done going forward. And as Clara said, we need that joined up thinking at the top in terms of the implementation of My Health EDU. And how we have services and tools that you can utilize already. So member states are already live with these services. And the way that we've implemented the change proposal within My Health EDU, it gives the flexibility for incrementally delivering the service, the prescription service using ISO IDMP, because we know there's a different level of maturity around the member states. So the way that we devised the change proposals, and actually Lotta that was in the presentation, thanks to the efforts of the people in this room here and the impact that it had on Wave 6 and Wave 7 specifications, Ireland and Finland were able to do a test of an ISO IDMP prescription been sent from Finland to Ireland, and we successfully dispensed it. So we're excited in terms of what needs to be done. I think it's important, given that this is the final conference, that we acknowledge the efforts of all the people in the room and that are not in the room and possibly online, that they have impacted the change, and we just keep that will going forward. What I will say is at the national level, Petra, the stakeholder engagement is key. Now that the EHDS has been formally, well, is in the process of formally been mandated with the vote during this week, there is going to be an awful lot of activity around this. So the people in this room are going to become more and more important in terms of the digitization of the services. And when we talk about patient autonomy, there are people that are spearheading this challenge. One of them is in this room here, our colleague Zoltan. So there's a PATHEAD initiative and there's a potential initiative. And that's all about putting the patient's data in the patient's hand. So we need the joined up thinking amongst all the initiatives, PATHEAD, potential, XShare, XDEHR, all the projects aligning and delivering on these services, Petra. So there's an awful lot of great work been done. We just need effective communication and collaboration amongst all the different stakeholders.
Would you like to go a little bit further on that then and say who you really think needs to collaborate most, and perhaps, as this is the closing of the project, what you are looking for the European Commission and some of the other organisational stakeholders, institutional stakeholders to do?
Yeah, it's like the call to action in the white paper, Petra, is that we see now that the EHDS is there. We need the call to action from the European Commission for the utilisation of ISO IDMP within the e-prescription domain. We know it benefits the patient summary domain and the new domain of hospital discharge reports. So I would echo Clara's sentiment. People in the member states to talk to their e-health network representatives, talk to the NCAs and make sure that we have the effective communication with the operational technical teams and the clinical terminologists nationally, just to make sure that there's that joined up thinking. As I mentioned earlier, in Ireland we were fortunate that we had HPRA, IPU, the operational level with the technical implementation and the semantic experts involved in the project as well. So we just need to keep the goodwill and the momentum going, Petra, to be honest with you.
Thank you very much. Auden, so turning to you and turning to your perspective more at a, I was going to say member state level, you're from Norway, so we have to work around that in a slightly different labelling, but you're very engaged with UNICOM, you're engaged with the initiatives that we've talked about at European Union level, but what are the particular challenges and opportunities that you see, particularly as we talk about access, efficiency, and actually keeping the healthcare systems running with access to medicines?
First of all, being only ahead, I feel like walking into a lion's den, into a room full of experts. But I attended the inauguration of the Critical Medicines Alliance yesterday, and there I picked up, at least for me, a new expression which I liked, and that was taking a balcony view. And that's me. So what do I see from my balcony? I would like to take you back almost 300 years to a frustrated science guy in Uppsala, Sweden, called Carl von Linné. And his frustration was due to the problems communicating with his colleagues in different names regarding plants and animals, because in every country they had different names. So it created a lot of confusion and problems. So he decided to deal with the problem and created the taxonomy of all living things. Family name in Latin, species name, Homo sapiens. Then everybody knows what he was talking about. Now we've ended up in the same situation when it comes to pharmaceuticals, almost 300 years later. But why has this happened now? In my opinion, that's due to the technological development that has opened the possibilities of digitalization. And to really unlock that potential, we need the standardized nomenclature. We need IDMP. And of course, it's a vast potential here. And to me, it would be sort of a service error not to utilize this. From an NCA perspective, we definitely need to utilize the potential in SPOR and EU SRS. We need that for the marketing authorization applications to handle that and to obtain it from the industry. We need it for the assessment. And we also need it to secure access when it comes to preventing shortages. We have the possibility to better track the supply chains, find out where the products are. We can use it for consumption predictions. We can definitely use it for identifying alternatives that can be substituted, as was touched upon earlier. And access is also regarding optimal and safe treatment. So we can establish treatment plans, use it to really identify the products in there, decision support for the physicians. And this can, of course, then also be shared at all levels, nationally and internationally. And I have also learned that there is one thing called closed medication loops that really secure access to the right medication at the right time and not least to the right patient. So also here. And another aspect of access is affordability. And it's important then to be able to collect data from both clinical trials and from real-world evidence to have continuous learning regarding the benefit-risk. And we can also get better help in decisions of value of products, relative effectiveness, analysis before we can before we do procurement or tenders. That's also a possibility. So it's all over the place, and service error not to use it. We've touched upon cooperation, work sharing, all these things, but there's one thing we haven't touched upon, and that is a big hope for me, that if we are able to display our data, which really is our gold as an NCA, our data on the pharmaceuticals, if we can display that in a structured way, there will be people out there, clever people, who can think of new ways of utilizing this, new ways that we haven't thought about, but that different people will think about. And I'm sure that can also be a huge benefit. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, and also for giving us that hope for the next window after UNICOM, around how we can, with proper structured display of data, go to the next level. Now we have a little bit of time before the coffee break, and I'm very keen to see if there are more questions from the floor.
Thank you. I'm a clinical pharmacist coming from a huge hospital. You're talking mostly about medication used by the patient, i.e. generic substitution and all. How do you see the whole concept in working on the secondary and tertiary level? I'm talking about e-prescribing, I'm talking about shortages, I'm talking about medication safety. Thank you.
Do we have anyone on the panel who'd like to touch a little bit further on the issue of shortages? Odan, you mentioned it a little bit. Would you like to dig further?
I see tremendous potential in all the cases that you mentioned. I didn't mention registries, and taking usage of data from registries, coupling that. But when it comes to shortages, this is also tremendously important, because through this, not least EU SRS, we can find out what can be substituted. We can also find out if there is a package with a different national labeling in another country that can be used and substituted for the patient. So of course it has huge potential and is also already being used in this area.
Shortages, and I'm not an expert, but very quickly, medication shortages is one of the use cases that's not talked about in the cross-border scenario. And in our cases, it's creating a lot of transactions when there is a medicine shortage in one country, so people travel many times there and back to get a medication in another country. So just a note from operation.
So the generals, or whatever we're called, has established a list of medicines that are critical in the European Union. And what we just announced recently with the implementation of IDMP is that for that list of critical medicines in the European Union, antibiotics, corticosteroids, and so on, a lot of medicines, we've announced that industry needs to help us complete the data in an ISO-compatible way. And let me explain. So we have data on the medicines. We already have a full database of products for many years supporting pharmacovigilance. With all its constraints, it's there. But it's not structured. And what it means is that we can't do proper analysis when we need to act fast because we can't compare products. We don't know what's really in the market. There's a set of information that's missing. So using the ISO IDMP standard, we asked companies, please send us your package information, please send it in a structured way. So I know if it's 10 tablets, 20 tablets, 30 tablets, I know the quantities. Please also send us the manufacturers, because typically when there's a shortage problem, it's linked to a manufacturing problem. So we're collecting a lot more information that in the case of a crisis, it would help us pinpoint, is this product similar to another product? Does it have the same substance? How much do I have on the market? And is there a manufacturing problem with this manufacturer? Can I find for alternatives? So what IDMP is doing is enabling us to collect structured information on products we deem are important to us, so that there's a crisis, we can do analysis much faster, as opposed to sending emails to the ICE and contacting and getting Excel files and finding out where the product is and finding for alternatives. So this efficiency, I think, will be translated to the ground, to the people not knowing where to find, because the regulators can make that information available to you also faster and could have decision-making of recommending alternatives and therapeutic alternatives, even if that's the case. So this is a concrete use case we're implementing. We just advertised it, that it's being supported by the IDMP implementation. So it's not really a far-fetched dream. It's really around the corner. It's structured information that enables us to do better analysis and better decision-making.
Thank you so much for sharing that use case. Eamon, a quick response from you. One more question at the back. Before you answer, Eamon, I want to just alert us. We have people following us online. If there is somebody online who would like to ask a question, if you raise your hand in the online environment, one of the people here will make sure that your question is read out and then answered. Eamon.
No, I just want to add to what Isabel had said, and just in relation to the colleagues from the floor question in relation to secondary usage as well. Like, as we know, European Health Data Space, My Health Data EU, Health Data EU. So with the build in primary care, with the build-up of structured and coded data, with the utilisation of ICO IDMP, as Isabella said, it leads to more research, population health. The beneficiary, the benefactor of that is the deeper insights that we can gain from as ISO IDMP matures for the secondary use of data through Health Data EU, because I think Jerome was going to touch upon that, and sorry to hear he couldn't be with us today. So it's critical, not just for primary use cases, but also for the insights that we can get, as Isabel had said.
Thank you very much, and thank you also for reminding us again about the potential of secondary use and the fact that the EHDS really opens the door to that. I have a question at the end, but no microphone for you.
I think prescription is one of the use cases that UNICOM will enable, because there is structured data, and the fact that we have structured data in terms of classifications, etc., that's going to be a huge help. That's one of the findings that we had in UNICOM. But I was thinking on these shortages, and I was also looking at how can we follow up on other use cases, like I'm thinking of supply chain resiliency. Like there are ingredients that, because they are rare, they are difficult to manufacture. If that manufacturer breaks down or something, then we have a whole chain of production of, so it's not about this brand being available or being a shortage of this thing, it's about the substance. And I do not know where we have a forum for these things, or if these are the use cases that we want as a community to push forward and see how can this simple thing of IDMP can help not only on the patient safety, but actually on the society, progress in these areas. Just a trigger for some comments.
If I understood your question right, that was probably touched upon on the Critical Medicines Alliance inauguration yesterday, because in that setting we are going to look more deeply into the production chain, finding out what is missing, where's the vulnerabilities, and to be able to track that in a very good way. Of course we need this also. So that is going to be looked into in HERA.
Thank you very much. Isabel, did you want to add to that? No? We have one question from online.
Yes, I have a question from the audience here for Isabel and maybe for Odom also. Are you looking into a file format for sharing medicine shortage information with medicinal products dictionaries?
I'm not sure if I'm the best person to answer that. So for exchanging medicines information, for sure we will use FHIR. I think there's ongoing discussion, I don't know if they've been concluded, in terms of promoting higher, more interoperability for the use case of shortages. I'm personally not very aware whether they've pinpointed a FHIR format or not. I believe the current agreement is first for the legal deadline of February 2025. They will do what they call a minimum viable solution that uses structured product data but still enables some Excel reporting, and they have in the pipeline to do further interoperability. I don't think there's been a firm commitment of what that format will be. Of course, FHIR is a possibility, but I'm not aware of a firm decision either way that we can communicate at this point in time.
Thank you very much. And we have one more question from the floor, and then we'll have two. Okay, two, but I have to be quick then. Over, Luke here first.
Okay, Peter Wachmann, retired. Only to build on what Carl said and what Holger said, I think you should step one step back, because I think we are thinking too complicated for the patient. If I'm a patient, I'm not interested in structured data or whatever. And I think all what I need is to have a camera to get a picture of the name of the medicinal product, then in the background doing something, and then the system is asking me, and I have also a microphone on it, what is your side effect? And that's all what we need. And I'm not sure if we cannot also the same thing about substitute, e-prescription or whatever. We need for the security the data in the system, but the patient don't need to know anything about this. But we are experts. We always like to have data.
Well, thank you for that comment. I do want to actually refer you back to the point made particularly by Eamon about the importance of reusing that data. And actually, Auden, you made the point as well about the fact that we are actually opening a window to a very wide range of uses that we mightn't even know yet. There is one more question, I believe, at the back, and there's a microphone coming, no, middle, there's a microphone coming, and then we will go towards closing. Thank you.
Dmitry Etian, on behalf of European Medicines Agency today, but I also have a chance participated in the number of the HDS projects that are running now. And, after the conversations that are taking place, yesterday and today, there's something coming up here is that, we are discussing with the projects like UNICOM, the bottom-up approach is that we've got something like a standard, like a UNICOM standard, or IDMP standard, if you will, where we believe that this is the support for interoperability, and this is the thing that connects the two worlds, the healthcare side of things, the primary and the secondary use, and the pharmaceutical side. Whereas probably doesn't probably kind of come obvious is that from the top down, we actually have the same alignment, is that we've got the kind of a overarching interoperability strategy for across the board. And I was thinking that maybe this the esteemed panelists coming from all different areas with the DG Santé representatives here, maybe you could kind of elaborate a little bit more here. So like, are we going to be doing this bottom up a little bit, or we would be able to align somehow the pharmaceutical legislation with what we are doing within the EHDS regulation? Thank you.
Well, I am from DG Connect, not from DG Sante, first of all, so I am not the best person to answer this question, but let's say in general, as I said, we have a lot of different regulatory frameworks coming up simultaneously. So, I mean, all the time there is the working place to look that there won't be major overlaps, but this work continues, especially in the implementation phase. There we really have to go and look at the details and what goes where and how do we make this regulatory framework complementary and sort of good for everyone, basically. Yeah, that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure if there's anything else anyone would want to add, particularly on the issue of the review of the pharmaceutical legislation. It's a little bit out of our comfort zone within this group. We're more used to the EHDS and the related technical pieces. But the review of the pharmaceutical legislation does bring a couple of very important things with it, not least the move towards electronic patient information in a way that I think links very nicely into what we started off in this session, which was talking about enhancing patient autonomy. And you mentioned very nicely about how, and Clara, it was you particularly who mentioned, patients just want you to deliver their medicine and they want the right information with it. They're not interested in what standard it's built on until something goes wrong. And I think they want it fast. But I think, Auden, you also mentioned that if a patient wants to report an adverse reaction of some sort, they want to be able to do that in an easy, in a streamlined way. And that then generates such important data that we can take forward, particularly through the European health data space, for secondary analysis, further use, to then build better patient information built on what we've learned from adverse reactions, perhaps for a particular patient group. So I hope the audience has been left in no doubt that in terms of patient autonomy, we are doing a good thing. But Melanie, you'd like to add a point, please do.
Now that we're trying to develop the e-prescription, we had some problems because we have some certain medications that in order to dispense the e-prescription in Cyprus, the doctor has to be from Cyprus. So we just need to have a common background, basically, all the EU countries, on the medications that are available for prescription. So if maybe someone from Norway comes for certain medications and he won't be able to dispense the prescription. And obviously, as Clara said, the patient will be frustrated because he was hoping that he will be able to get the medication. So there has to be a common ground on those kind of things, on which medications are, there has to be a common one so we can, they can dispense all the prescriptions all over the EU. So, okay.
Well, I'm glad you raised that issue, but of course it takes us where we always come back to again and again in every digital health and health conference we ever go to, the relationship between what the European Union can do and what a member state can do. And it's enshrined in Article 168 of the treaty. It is the right of member states to organize their healthcare systems. But, and this is what we've been talking about here, the European Union has a duty to ensure patient autonomy, has a duty to ensure safety of medicines, has a duty to ensure equitable access towards medicines. So how do we create that balance? I'm not going to go on another political diversion here, but, well, one thing I will say quickly politically, there are some European elections coming up very soon. Make sure you use your vote. because the next European Parliament and next European Commission will be looking at these things. There is a lot of legislation review in the pipeline. There may be new legislation as well. And there are lots of big initiatives coming up. And I'm just going to refer very briefly to the Letta report and the Draghi report, which is anticipated, where we really see a move towards a significant change, but it will be very difficult to implement. So thank you for raising that. I think we're all on the same page in this room that we would like the change to happen, but there are it would take 27 countries to agree to change it, and that's never easy. We also then had a little bit in this session, a lot actually, talking about the importance of safety. We looked, thank you Melanie, also at substitutions and the challenges around that. And again, there we have that overlap between what can be decided at national level and what is decided at European level. But I think we became very much to the conclusion, particularly looking at things like EU SRS, of the importance that IDMP and all the standards within it really do provide in terms of getting to that next level of safety, and particularly when we talk about, as you mentioned, Isabel, the possibility of reporting adverse events at excipient level and how that could take us to the next level. Finally, we did also try to unpack some of the issues around access and equity and how challenging that is. And and I'm very glad this issue came up, talking about the use case of shortages and supplies. And Auden, I'm particularly grateful to you for outlining how proper, structured, accessible data can be so important in terms of planning, in terms of knowing where a medicine is, who's using it, what we might be able to predict about its further use. And I think that is really the segue also into the European health data space. Because as all the data that is generated through routine use of the IDMP, we will be able to have a much clearer picture of what is needed and where we are in the medicine supply chain. But the real beauty will be as we can merge together the European health data space with other information, with other data spaces, and we can use that to predict issues that may arise. When we can merge that data, for example, with the climate data space, and we can predict that there is going to be a pollen peak that is going to create a new demand, for example, in asthma medicines, and how we need to build that into our supply chain. And I think that's really what you were pointing at. This embedding of IDMP opens the door to a wide range of opportunities. UNICOM has done a huge amount to get us on those first steps, but it is the first steps, and we want to go further. But to go further, we need to, as you said, Eamon, particularly, work collaboratively, work both top-down, bottom-up, make sure that we work in partnership with the agencies to really make the most of the opportunities that the UNICOM project has identified for us. This isn't the end of this session. It's not the end of this conference. We're going to take these issues further in the sessions before lunch and after lunch again. You have also the white paper. You have the opportunity to vote. You have the opportunity to lobby your members of parliaments. And the white paper is a great start to help you know what you might want to lobby on. And with that, I'd like you to join me in thanking our panel. Thank you very much for the great answers and the preparation.